New hat, new volume, let's do this. Spoiler warning. This is a review of RWBY Volume 7, Episode 1. If you haven't seen the episode yet, you may want to before watching this review. RWBY Volume premieres have a pretty good track record. The worst one was Volume 3's, but that had less to do with the writing and everything to do with the piss-poor animation. Judging from this episode and the accompanying OP, this is gearing up to be the most nuanced and ambitious volume yet, and I'm here for pretty much everything that happens. The heroes break away and try to keep a low profile because they're worried that showing up in a stolen vehicle will get them thrown in prison where they won't even be able to get a hold of Ironwood. There's quite a lot of environmental details around Mantle that make the city feel way more alive than Vale and Mistral ever did. They took my praise of civilian characters in Volumes 4 and 6 and actually did something meaningful with it. Sadly, the scene with the drunk patriot had wonky animation and wonkier voice acting. On top of the pedestrians, there's also the drone straight out of every cyberpunk dystopia, an endless amount of industrial smog, and some background headlines and a slew of election posters. My only worry is that they're going to try having a ham-fisted election meddling allegory with Watts. Ironwood actually makes for a pretty solid Trump allegory and a more accurate one than most Trump allegories these days, but that's because he's a pretty cool and competent, albeit paranoid, leader. Pietro Palladina also has a great official introduction after having been teased in Volume 3. He ties a lot of the ideas in this episode together and, judging by the trailer and opening, is pretty indicative of what RWBY is going to have to do. You can be humble and help the people of Mantle and acknowledge that Atlas's kingdom defenses are your best bet at thwarting Salem at the same time. But none of that matters because my red-headed robot child is back. Now, I predicted this for years. She's a robot. She's always been a robot. And she will likely always be a robot. So it's kinda dumb that anyone thought she was gone for good. Could they have done more with it by giving her memory loss or something? Perhaps. And who knows, maybe they will. The action scene in this episode is also pretty slick. There's some good animation and the bad stuff is covered by uncharacteristically nifty camera work. It's like they finally learned that the camera is supposed to follow the action. Gee, it's almost like firing a pair of utterly incompetent producers was a net positive. And now for one last elephant in the room. Jason Liebrecht. He did good, but it's a matter of taste. I, for one, believe that no actor is bigger than the role they're given. Human brains are wired to care more about faces than voices, and so for your average viewer, Liebrecht is close enough to where anyone who doesn't know about Vic's situation aren't even going to notice, let alone care. On the other hand, that might be good enough reason to hate him because he does not make the role his own. He's just imitating Vic Mignogna. And to all the Kick Vic people cheering him as better than the original, no, he isn't. He hasn't been given the chance to. But what did I expect from people who praise Vic's performance in Volume 6 only to turn around and trash talk one of the best scenes and arguably the best volume just to be on the right side of history? So in the end, I'm interested in this volume. It's off to a good, albeit predictable start. I'm certainly interested in where things go, but I have little hope for any political allegory they're going for because the show has a bad history with that. But they are at least poised to make something truly greater than anything they've done before, which is going to make it all the more heartbreaking when they waste that potential again. I'm Mediocrity4, thanks for watching.